Show Up Part 2, this triptych reveal in this docu-film is a love letter to these particular individuals who have helped me along my wellness journey as an artist, as an advocate, as a woman, and honoring their stories beyond their particular platforms. You know, a lot of them are influencers, a lot of them are artists, therapists in their own rights, but not a lot of people know their story or have access to their respective lens as far as mental health is concerned. So I wanted to bring them space, and so grateful for their yes to be a part of this project. I honor their willingness to show up, show up, show up, show up.
It wasn't until recently that I even began to like acknowledge the idea of mental health in a personal way, right? One, I believe, just as me, I believe as an artist and as a creative, that whole idea can be confusing because we're so emotionally on edge in the creative process that it can kind of blur the idea of us having the need for help, mental health attention, awareness, or just issues in that area.
I have had a lot of different dynamic mental health issues and challenges my entire life since I was a little girl. And for a long time, I carried shame with that. And I felt like it was something that had to be vaulted and hidden and kind of stored in a box on the top of my closet.
Growing up, it wasn't something that was a focal point or it was a focus. Yeah, we may have dealt with some things and things may have been going on, and we had different aunts or cousins to talk to, or your parents at times, but I've never really considered it like a mental health thing until I've become older.
I'm adopted. So when I found out that I was adopted, I was in the 5th grade. But like since then until like even now, like I still have my breakdown sometimes. But I struggled a lot when I was younger. Like I was mad at my mom. I was mad at my biological mom. Like, what made you wait so long to tell me? I kept a lot of stuff inside, but I was hurting because I was just like, I didn't know why she gave me the break. So I struggled with it, and I wanted to kill myself. I've been through a lot. I struggled with that for a long time, and I felt like my mom just didn't know what to do, and she was just like hurting. So she didn't want me to do anything to myself. So they put me in the hospital, tried to give me a bunch of medicine, but it was just like I don't, and it was crazy. It was the worst experience because it was just like I was in there with all these people, and I felt like they didn't know what was wrong with them. And I felt like some of the people just probably needed somebody to talk to, like, and I knew that I just needed somebody to talk to, but I didn't know how to express it. So I was just sitting there. I'm like, I don't want to be here. I don't need to be here. Like, I just need somebody to talk out my frustration. I went to therapy. I think I was in there for like 2 days, and and I was ashamed. I'm like, I'm in here. I'm like, am I crazy? Like, I'm in a crazy home. Like, crazy people. Like, there would be people in there yelling, shouting, and I'm just like, I gotta go home. Didn't have no phone. I had to use a pay phone. And I was just like, damn, like my mom is just throwing me here. My mom and dad is throwing me in here. Like they don't care about me. So I struggled with that for a long time. I came home, did some therapy, and it didn't work. Like I've been through like so many therapists, but I just felt like maybe that wasn't the person for me. But as I got older and I learned how to I guess express myself more, it helped. My art helped me.
Being a loner now, not trusting people, not trusting things, not, probably my trust is gone. Yeah, so I think that's probably the biggest impact, you know what I'm saying? It probably hold me back from a lot of positive things, you know what I'm saying? Greater things, I probably block my own blessings from it, but I feel like I'm protecting myself and my peace. And, I mean, I still get things done that way. I feel like isolation is probably the best thing, so I'm not affecting others with my traumas. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people just don't relate or understand. You know, and trying to explain something all the time to somebody about your wrongdoing, and people get tired of hearing apologies, and, you know, for certain things. Not saying that it's all bad, but you know, when it's good, I notice 9 times out of 10 is usually when I'm on my own.
And becoming a mom has really done a number on my mental health because I want to heal so that I can be a better mother to her. And I've never, like I said, I've always known I had issues, always known that I need to, go to therapy or whatever. And, I've always tried to do things to take pressure off of myself, off my mental. And now it's like, okay, you have a little human that's literally watching you, everything that you do. You gotta show her that wholeness. Like, you gotta bring her, that good stuff. So right now, my experience with mental health is really nurturing myself, giving the same grace that I give my daughter, giving it to myself, and just taking it one day at a time. To stay in truth, to try not to, to always be in a stage of like chasing something, to finally just to sit down and just be. I think my soul really needed that. So I'm just basking in this time that I'm given, and I'm so grateful that I'm able to have it, to just be.
It makes me think first of this panic attack I had a few years ago, about 5 years ago. It was the first panic attack I ever had. I thought I was having a heart attack. I called my parents and said, should I go to the hospital? And I rested for the rest of the day and came out of that realizing that I wasn't setting myself up with a good enough schedule, a good enough routine to not be in a position where at the drop of a hat, I had an attack like that. I was working at that point until like 4 a.m. most nights, coffee till like 10 o'clock at night, getting very little sleep and just kind of going, thinking that I could do it. And it was coming out of that. I actually, I didn't have healthcare at the time because that's the country we live in. Went to a free clinic, had a great session there. They talked a lot about mental health, which was great. They offered some free resources and some tips. And that was my first real, my first real interaction with like mental health assistance. And I was really grateful for that opportunity, and those free clinics exist.
One of deep exploration through my creative practice. So through the visual and performing arts, I've been doing my best to try to navigate and define and illustrate and convey and communicate my lived experience since, dating back to my childhood. And it's still such it's still such a, there's still so much more to be explored there. But so at least since 2011, I've been sharing bits and pieces of the story, right? So my personal lived experience includes, being hospitalized and medically diagnosed with borderline personality disorder, trichotillomania, major depression, having suicidal thoughts with a plan, navigating those attempts, and why I felt I had to go there, to resort there, that was just my lot in life. Exploring why was my mind set on that, self-inflicting pain, thinking that was what I deserved. And I had So this practice helped me to my art practice summoned me to kind of confront and identify the root of my lived experience, my mental lived experience. Because there's a lot going on in here that a lot of people don't know. It's naked to the eye. That's why they call mental health the invisible disability, because on the outside, you have no clue. 9 times out of 10, you have no clue what someone is going through internally. And so, my lived experience has been just that. But I'm so grateful. So grateful at the same time, because of the resilience that I grew, having gone through all that I went through, not having the tools, not having the language and vocabulary, not having this arsenal of things to help protect me. Art helped save my life.
I now know in my adult life that we all go through it. We're experiencing hundreds of thoughts throughout the day, and it's challenging to balance those thoughts out, to know which ones to focus on and which ones actually mean something, right? If we could hear what someone else was thinking, we would realize that we all are unbalanced, if you will. So my personal experience has been me learning how to accept the large amount of thoughts that I have throughout the day and using it to my advantage. I think that there's some good stuff in there, and then some stuff can just kind of float in its own space.
When we hit a bump in the road and feel something that is clearly not what we want, that is also valuable because it clarifies what it is that we do want. And we want what we want because we know it will make us feel good. So getting to that place of feeling good as often as I can, before I start, while I work, results in a life that feels good and in a life and work that I want.
I've had my own lifelong experiences with anxiety and depression, and some of that was, a genetic lottery. But I feel like as I've gotten older, aspects about that have changed. In some respects, maybe it's deepened because, a child's understanding of what they're worried about or afraid of is different, than an adult's. But I think also part of my journey with my anxiety and depression has been I've just gotten more and more curious about it and more accepting of it. It's okay, so my anxiety doesn't have to go away. My depression doesn't have to go away. I want to. How do I live with it? Because it is part of me.
A safe place is a place where you feel your most grounded, your most brave, your most courageous, your most centered to take on the world. What does that look like amongst different lived experiences?
So music, for one, is a big escape for me. So if you're in a wheel, you can turn your music up. You can play whatever you want and play it at ignorant levels and really, connect with the music. And you play, the stuff I listen to in my car is directly depicted on the mood that I'm in or the mood that I'm trying to create. So if I'm on the way to a meeting that I need to go in and I need to kill this meeting, I need to go in this meeting with a little bit more vigor, I need to go in there, feeling myself a little bit. I'm putting Rick Ross on and I'm listening to Rick Ross the whole way there. Or I'm listening to DMX, I need to go in there a little bit more sure of myself. I need to go in there with a little bit more quote unquote aggression. I mean, I need to go in there. I mean, on something. Survive. I'm listening to Mac Ayers right now. I might listen to some Kid Cudi if I'm feeling a certain way. But the music, it dictates my mood, but it also is just a added bonus to how I'm trying to feel. It kind of sets the mood as well.
I think one of my saving graces have been that I'm a very spiritual person. I just take my time with God very seriously, and when I feel like I can't take no more, that's been a place that I've always went to in life. I do know that through conversation with other folks in general that can also be a bad thing. The idea of running to church, or not, for me it hasn't been church, it's much more of a personal devotion lifestyle, but the idea of not addressing mental health issues through professional help as opposed to praying about things. I've come to a place that I believe full-heartedly that both are needed, both are necessary, and they work together. But I can say for myself personally that it has deeply helped me.
The kitchen. When I am cooking, I can hear the wisdom of the women in my family. I can also take a deep breath and savor the moment. And that's when I can really listen to hear the whispers from the mother of invention. I take that same experience of cooking color and being in flow or in my brave space when I cook color. So I hand dye ribbon and material by cooking it over the stovetop in a single pot. And that's when I also listen to whispers from the mother of invention on how to mix pigment to arrive at a hue that will really knock our socks off.
I really love this space. For one, it's got tall ceilings, which, I'm gonna go way sidebar, but like, I grew up in the church, and there really is something about like being in a space with high ceilings. Like, I think that's kind of magical. And a lot of row homes, like the row homes I rent from, you have like 10-foot, 12-foot ceiling, whatever it is. So coming here, having these gigantic windows, all of this natural light, I sit bathed in light every day. In this like cathedral, it's a small room, but the ceiling's a really high room. I often feel inspired when I get here. I also come here just to sort of process and think and work and rest. I take naps on that couch over there. I read on that couch over there. I sit here on this thing that helps you sit up straight, to answer emails, and it's not too far from my home either. So, when I want to go grab lunch, I'll go walk home or take a walk. I find peace and inspiration in this space.
Being around love and family and around the ones that I love and friends. Taking time to actually put my ideas down on paper, being outside in good weather.
To find this feeling of empowerment within myself and to explore my own very personal healing with mental health, specifically depression and anxiety. What's been incredibly helpful and what's been a safe space for me is solitude and quiet. I choose to spend a lot of my time in my own personal space alone to calm my nervous system, to recenter, to reprioritize and refocus what's important to me, what I want to explore, who I want to be, how I want to heal. And I can only do that when I can find a quiet space to really be honest with myself. And I find that in my home, I try to live very minimally to quiet down a lot of the clutter in my brain. And if I'm not here, I'm walking. Walking for miles and miles and miles is another way that I clear my head and reconnect with myself and nature and the big sky and let the clouds pass a little bit.
My art is like my safe space. I consider myself to be, especially if I don't know you, like I'm a real quiet and laid back person, but my art is just like, that's like really what's inside my head and what I'm thinking. But my art is, I consider it to be my safe space. I remember at a time when I was feeling like really, 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 really low, and I would use my art to express myself, like on certain paintings, like you can really see it. I'm like, dang, like he's really feeling it. But my art, it sounds like cliche, but I'm able to express myself. I used to have an art journal. I don't really do it anymore. But I would draw out how I felt instead of writing it down, and it would make me feel better.
Art definitely helps in my personal wellness journey now. Now more than ever. Being an artist and trying to find your voice, you're kind of just you're looking for acceptance in a certain way of speaking. And until you find your voice, you're trying different styles so that you can be accepted. And when you're not accepted, that can play big factors into your mental health. Like I said, not feeling accepted, not feeling valued, things like that. And as an artist, those are things that we kind of look for. Not all, but sometimes it definitely helps when your art is received well. So my art now, I don't paint the things that I used to paint in the past, where I was looking for acceptance from others. I seek acceptance from my my family, my friends, and my close supporters of my community. My artwork reflects who I am, who my community is, who my family is, and I get instant gratification when I create these pieces, because I know that my art is coming from a very pure space, where I'm just doing the work that I'm supposed to be doing, and I know that. So before I get any type of accolades or praise from the outside world, I'm satisfied as soon as the piece is done from myself, and that helps with staying in a positive mind space.
I think within me, there's like this safe space that I'm always like tapping into, because like everything that you need is already like within you, I feel like. And anything on the outside that can change at a dime. You have to be able to have like some type of like grounding inside of you. So I want to say my safe space is like inside of me. I wanted to say that my safe space was on the museum steps, but that was another life. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I feel like I'm living a totally different life, where like my interpretation and views on everything is like totally shifted. And I don't want to blame it just on becoming a mom. That's just like the catalyst of the situation. But I think my safe space is really like just within me. Because I'm going to leave it there, because it's like in me, like what's in me, it can't be taken away. It can't be, this is where home is. So I'm going to have to say it's within me, to be 100% honest.
So this space, I mean, my anxiety, if my anxiety or my worries they dissolve when I'm here. As does my depression dissolves when I'm here as well, because it is that feeling of everything is as it should be. And nature just has a way of taking care of itself. It has ebbs and flows, and our life can be like that as well. Even if I don't feel okay today, I'm going to be okay maybe later today or tomorrow. Even if I'm worried about something, it's ultimately going to be okay. So that the peace, that I feel in this space, and the taking the time out for myself to engage in this space, is what brings just that wordless feeling, of I am content, I am peaceful, everything is okay, I'm okay.
We are actually in my safe space right now, here in my bedroom studio in Coatesville, Pennsylvania. It's these canvases have taught me a lot about myself as an artist, as a woman, as a human being. They've helped me, and I'm looking around, there's art materials everywhere, plants, brushes, canvas, like raw canvases. I think I'm taking a look here now because I'll be transitioning from this space later this year in 2021. But yeah, these works, this space, I mean, as small as it is in an apartment, the works that I've created here have gone on to galleries and museums and magazines and newspapers, billboards, you know, it all happened here, right? So again, going to that, just acknowledging that idea that, you know, you can't judge a book, right, by its cover. You never know what value something or someone has, and this humble space has been so good to me, so integral in my personal growth as an artist, now as an advocate for mental health, which, and I say this all the time, I did not intend to be an advocate of any kind when I first started. I just wanted to share through the work, through visual and performing arts, you know, my lived experience, and it was the response from the community of my exposure that kind of organically snowballed into this advocacy work. But it started here, the root is here.
All things creative. But I think it's important to highlight how important conversation has been in my creative expression. I now not only take my thoughts and things that I experience, but the thoughts that, or the conversations that I engage in with others, and mix them together based on what's parallel, and that's what I exude through my creativity. So one of those main spaces being music. It's the one thing that we all listen to and have been listening to since very early in our lives, and it's the one thing that lives on when we are no longer here. So through the music, you have the opportunity to talk about what you're experiencing and thoughts that you are having, and they can live on past you and potentially help someone else that's going through mental health.
So the reality is, in a lot of our communities, mental health is just not a conversation that's being had. And so mental health awareness is this idea to help normalize that conversation, especially in spaces, in marginalized communities where the stigma is still so heavy and so thick.
Mental health awareness makes me think about Black people not taking therapy seriously. It makes me think about another thing on a long list of things we weren't taught as children to know about, care about, or take care of. It makes me think about this new self-love culture that I'm really excited we've been taking on, and the idea that that's prompting people to think about their mental health. And I think about my friends who's been our therapist all our lives, and the people that I can go to and cry and scream and share. So I think that's culturally been our therapy. And I think about the current time and how we're more not celebrating it, but acknowledging it and giving it the attention that it needs.
Creating a sense of well-being. How can we create an atmosphere of well-being in the work that we make, in our life, and in the quality of thoughts that we're allowing ourselves to daydream and think about?
For me, mental health has been very prevalent in my daily life and very personal to me. What I think about now is mental health and destigmatizing mental health. When I'm thinking about mental health and mental health practices, I'm thinking about vulnerability, transparency, honesty, And these days, when it comes to mental health, I'm very much concerned with and centered on this open conversation about it.
Sort of the lack of help that our country offers people. My mind goes right to activism, right? When I think of mental health awareness, I think of the lack of resources that folks have, and how we could and should be fighting more for access to those resources. Mental health is physical health, is community health, is the country's health, right?
So something that's taboo that a lot of people don't talk about, especially in my culture, where I'm from. We don't talk about how we're feeling really ever, especially if we aren't feeling the way that people expect us to feel. There's no normalcy to it. You're off or whatever. But going back to what I said, something much needed. People need to understand more about what mental health is. Destigmatizing it and all of that.
Normalizing it and normalizing knowing different mental illnesses, because I feel like if it's normalized, we won't have a lot of problems that we have. You won't have so many homeless people on the street. You won't have people being killed by cops because they don't know that something's wrong with them. You won't have people killing other people because maybe something wrong with them and they don't know how to get it handled. So I would just say just normalizing it. Just making it to where it's like you're not looking at it as something bad, or I hate when people use the word, oh, they're crazy. Like, no, you just don't know what's wrong with that person. If you normalize it, you won't be looking at that person funny or making them feel probably worse than they already feel. So I just feel like we just should just make it more aware and just normal.
What people are internally dealing with and how it can pretty much interrupt, not necessarily interrupt, but it can interrupt their daily lives and their behaviors or how they are interacting with others. And just noticing the signs of those of whom you're around every day. You never know what someone else is going through. And even for ourselves, some people don't always know what we may battle with internally and what we show on the outside.
I think of like a wholeness that you can feel like once you actually do the work to maintenance like your mental health or like to service it. I think of like wholeness, like the integration of like your spirit. Basically, I just think about like whatever your soul's mission was to accomplish, it like you finally get there.
My ADHD, being diagnosed at a young age, just dealing with it, I guess throughout my life, as far as back when I can remember, real young, not even in my preteens, like I was young. Man, a lot of people don't really talk about it, or they put it in joking form, but it is a severe thing. It is a serious thing. And yeah, just trying to overcome being impulsive and making impulsive decisions. And it's part of my lifestyle,
Deal with depression, dealing with anxiety, and I think what's helpful is knowing what triggers that anxiety, so I know what weapons to fight against it. But we in my household talk about mental health all the time, in ways that we can fight against it, help one another out, so that nobody feels alone in whatever they're going through, because we're all here to help each other, and just be aware of those triggers.
The fact that I grew up not hearing those terms, mental health awareness, trauma, depression, suicide, therapy, I didn't grow up with those terms, and so without that language and vocabulary to define my awareness, my lived experience was just kind of one of those that felt like I was alone. I felt like I was living these certain internal lived experiences alone. So when I think about mental health awareness, I think about the sheer fact that I didn't have said awareness for a very long time, which really set the tone for the work that I'm doing now.
Education. I think it's very important for people that experience mental health and for people that have, I want to be careful to say people that have not experienced it, because I think even those people may not be aware. So I think education is a very important component of mental health awareness for all parties, people that know what they're experiencing and for people that have never had the knowledge or information provided to them to have a better understanding of it.
That we're all somewhere in the journey towards wellness. None of us have arrived. None of us are ever going to arrive, and that's not bad news. I, throughout my lifetime, have had ups and downs with anxiety and depression. I still do. And, that's okay. I love the quote from Ram Dass, and I'm sorry if I didn't pronounce the name correctly, but it's, we're all just walking each other home. And that's what I feel like. I feel like we are all here together, walking with each other home. What does that mean? It means different things to different people, but I feel like to Ram Dass, and the way I take it too, is wholeness, right? Wholeness. And kind of like I talked about earlier, my best self parts and my not so best self parts, that's okay. They become a whole, and they're enough. Just as I am today, I might want to change some things or work on some things so that I can love myself better and I can love other people better. But as I am right now, and as each individual person is right now, we're enough. We're whole.
I am so grateful for the people who decided to show up and share their secret stories, the most intimate experiences as far as their mental health journeys are concerned, trusting me, being courageous, being brave. And so I encourage, to pay that forward. May you truly be encouraged to speak to a professional, seek the help that you need. The resources are readily accessible and available to you within your community. If you need access to those resources, reach out, talk with a professional, talk with your family and friends who you trust, and be encouraged to show up for yourself.
Show up.
Show up.
Show up. Show up.
Show up.
Show up.
Show up.
Show up.
Show up.
Show up.
Show up.
Show up.
Show up.